This video, by the way, there's not going to be any video footage. I could have gathered some stuff, but you can't replay the streams that leaked all this story stuff. And even if I had captured stuff, it probably wouldn't look good because you have the guy's face cam and the quality was pretty low from my actual file. And there's just too much to talk about. So I feel we're just going to go audio for this one. A bit of a Froster talks here, right? I just want to give my thoughts on story mode, because we have it. It was leaked by some random streamer, who was very fucking annoying, but I appreciate all the stuff they leaked. That's pretty cool. I find it hilarious how we have had Reiko himself leaked, and on top we've seen all of Reiko's C's, we've seen his fatalities, we've seen his entire moves list, and he hasn't been officially announced yet. That is insane. I assume he's coming in the next Kombat cast. I don't know why they've held off on him for so long, because it's Reiko. It's one of their big returns, 17 years in the making, right? But it's Reiko. He's an absolute jobber, which I think is fine, honestly. I think that's fine. The problem is he doesn't get any focus in terms of story role, but him losing's fine. I don't care. But yeah, let's get into the actual story. Chapter 1 we all know about, and it's whatever. After it's revealed that, the Link Way was all staged by Liu Kang because he's trying to find champions for a tournament with Adenia, which the Link Way are weirdly not a part of. So once they go to get Johnny in his chapter, which is chapter 2, they just kind of dip for a while, and that's the start of a big problem with story mode. The characters disappearing, which has always been an NRS thing, because the chapter system's really bad, so it just causes stuff like this to happen. But how they did most chapters is they are kind of in parts. Like, you get a whole section, I think this is the best section in the game, from Kenshi's visit, from Kenshi's chapter where the hero group visits Outworld, which doesn't have Raiden. For some reason, another character goes for a while. They explain it as well. Raiden's known in Outworld, and that's literally it. And that writes him out for all of it, really, until chapter 30. Dude's gone for 10 chapters. But yeah, this whole Outworld bit lasts a lot of chapters. It lasts from chapter 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 4 chapters, if I recall correctly, before moving on to some Link Way stuff, which is 2 chapters. And then you go to 3 chapters, and then another 3 chapters, that's the climax. It's... I like I think it makes better pacing overall when the character chapters then switch over to just another character in a group. It's still this ongoing story, it's not cutting away for 4 chapters, and I find that cool, how there's less cutaways. But yeah, that's why for this story in particular, characters go away for a long, long time. It's quite rough. It is. So the chapter system's still back, which fucking sucks, and it still does. The only difference here is not every chapter's 4 fights. Some are more. Some are against just random grunts and jobbers. Not many though. I think it's used a handful of times. They get quite creative with quite a few of their filler fights. There is Johnny's chapter starts. Half of Johnny's chapter is him shooting a movie, which I think is quite charming, but I don't care. I don't care to see it. It is filler. It's quite clever, but it is filler. And yeah, just a lot of it's filler, as we expected. But Raiden's chapter is the one that really stands out. I think there's a few that get 5 fights, but nothing really goes past 4 or 5, and most are 4 still. And then Raiden's just 7 fights, and power scaling, that's another issue with the chapter system. I'm getting this stuff out of the way if we get into any proper story details. because, the chapter system sucks. News. What crazy news. But yeah, the power scaling sucks, and that kind of starts with really instructive. Although saying that, Johnny beats Sub-Zero, and Sub-Zero is behind Sub-Zero, so he's like betrayed stronger than Kwai, and that makes sense. Although Kwai here beats Bihan, I don't fucking know. But Bihan in his chapter, he beats the Deadly Alliance, right? And like a few other jobbers, but yeah, that one doesn't really get much praise. Actually, he beats Ermac. That's a pretty big deal. I mean, Ermac's a jobber, but like Ermac is a very powerful character in lore. We're supposed to take him seriously. So yeah, he lost to Johnny, didn't want to do that. So actually, it starts at about power scaling. But yeah, Raiden, who was beaten by Kung Lao in chapter 1, he's portrayed as like very inexperienced. Like he has skills, but like he's just quite inexperienced, right? And then chapter 3, which is like a day later, because chapter 2, it's nighttime, and then Liu Kang visits Johnny. And yeah, it turns night like during the tea house stuff. So it seems to just be the next day. But yeah, Raiden's chapter is very long, and even though we just got last week by Kung Lao's phase of really experience, he wins the whole tournament, which the tournament was literally, there's 2 tournaments. One is to determine the LFM champion, and in said tournament, it's Kenshi, Johnny, and Kung Lao. Those are the 4 who can chosen to be potential champions, which is weird. It's weird how those are the 4 he'd choose. Kung Lao and Raiden, yes, that makes sense. Kenshi, you can stretch it. Johnny is just, what? Doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. But yeah, besides that, Raiden beats all 3 of them. Because the tournament is just all 3 of them against Raiden. Because Raiden beats one of them, and then instead the other 2 have another fight, and the winner facing Raiden just fights both of them. Which is weird. But I guess you need filler fights, even though you actively chose to make this chapter longer. And then you go to Outworld, you see that for the first time. And then there's no tournament. And this tournament is literally just all of like Outworld's forces versus Raiden. Earthrealm only gets 1 character. They only get 1 person on their side. It's somehow an even more unfair tournament than the actual like evil ones, the ones that are trying to conquer realms. This is supposed to just be a friendly competition, and it's just stacked against Earthrealm. And Raiden wins it. He beats like 7 more characters because he beats like Mataro, Kotor, and someone else like off screen, alongside like beating like 4 people in fights. It is insane. This guy lost to Kung fucking Lao, and like the next day he's beating him and like the entirety of Outworld's army. That is ridiculous. That is terrible power scaling. It never really stood out to me in power scaling until like Reptile's chapter, because I mean it's Reptile not jobbing for the first time, so it's going to be strange regardless. But he beats Shao. He beats Shao fucking Kahn. I mean it's General Shao, and that's the thing you will notice with Shao and his team. He is not like a threat at all. He really isn't. He is just another jobber. He is what people acted like MK11 Shao was. Even though MK11 Shao only lost 1 fight. He only lost a katana. Like, yeah, you fight him as Kotal, but then, like, in the cutscene after, Shao, like, bests him. Kotal needs help. So, Shao don't really job in that game. He does here. Loses to Raiden. Loses to, Reptile here, which is crazy to say. That is insane. That is some crazy ass power scaling. I respect it, you know, because of all the shit Shao's given Reptile in past times. They're not really connected in this one, but it's kind of satisfying. It doesn't make sense, but yeah, it's satisfying. I can let it slide. And then Shao loses to, I don't know who else, but I remember there was another really egregious Shao Kahn loss. Was it Sub-Zero? Was it Scorpion? Kind of is around there. I don't know. I can't remember. Fuck. There's so many fights. This is a longer story because there's 15 chapters. Well, 14. The 15th chapter is barely a chapter. It is atrocious. But yeah, power scaling is real bad. And just the pacing, the overall chapter system, it's bad. It's what you expect, right? And then, where do we even start? I mean, there's a lot of characters, I guess, and lore, because MK12 changed a ton of lore unnecessarily so. And I was saying they count as retcons because there's not going to be an in-universe explanation to the changes. Because the context for this new timeline is Liu Kang's reset stuff. So any changes need to be stuff Liu Kang would have changed. Otherwise, there's no reason for the change. Thus, it's a retcon. Right? Because it conflicts with old lore. I was right. I was right. Which doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me. Because why would stuff like the Tarkatans being a disease now, why aren't they just a natural species? Did Liu Kang erase them? No, why would he do that? It's just a dumb retcon. That has like no backing for it. The ones they do explain is Quan Chi and Shang Tsung. Well, just the villains generally. General Shao has like in his backstory that like he had like some sort of a physical condition or whatever, but his shitty father like just I don't even know, put on some program which I thought would be like some shady like mutant stuff to explain his appearance, but no, they don't do that. We still don't know what Shao's species even is, even though they've made him look even more distinct with the horns. We still don't have a clue what Shao's species is. It is ridiculous how they're still holding on to this mystery, and they'll never solve it because no one cares. But yeah, he overcomes that. I assume, I don't really outright state it, but I assume Liu Kang is the reason Shao here has like a fucking disability, which kind of fucked up, but it is Shao Kahn, so valid. And then, like, he overcame that because of his father. We don't even know the specifics of Quan Chi because we don't have a bio for him because he's not in the game. Which, by the way, Quan Chi and Ermac are very clearly characters who were meant for the base roster, but were pushed back for DLC. And that's probably due to time constraints because they're not complete here. They reuse like MK11 Noob and Shang stuff. Which is a shame. They clearly should be the base roster because it's a 23 character roster, which is quite appalling, honestly. We thought it was 24 characters, but no, that last slot is for nothing. It is for nothing. People are still coping about it, something, but no, we would have known by now. Unless it's a miraculous day one patch, it won't be. Because we would have seen them in the story, surely. Right? They wouldn't be an invasions unlock because we know the invasions unlocks are cameos. And then we know those locked characters. You actually see them. See, they went up some secret stuff. I don't think. So yeah, it's 23 characters, 15 cameos right now. Which is quite bad. But yeah, what was he talking about? Oh yeah, Quan. Quan Chi was like a slave to something. He's an outworlder now. I don't know why. But he somehow started like the Sisterhood of Shadow. We don't know anything about Shinnok. By the way, his amulet shows up. Shao Kahn just randomly has it. and that's it. Like really random, wild, unexplained, inconsistent bullshit. And I think the longer this story moves sits me, the more I realize they explained so little. There's so many things that I realized, oh, they didn't actually explain this. Because they didn't think an explanation is the most plausible theory. But yeah, it is crazy. So I don't know if there's a Conrad's like a slave now or something, which, why does Lou have slaves in his new time? Not for him, but it's just weird. If you're rewriting history, when you choose to end slavery, it's just a for it's probably something that's like, oh, don't think too hard about it. But I'm not the one who made this premise. And then Shang Tsung is just a con man, which, okay, that's weird how Liu Kang still chose him to be shady, right? I don't know how that works, but yeah, you could just argue that he should have just killed them, right, or imprisoned them straight away. It's weird how he just let him be, because clearly he knew they wouldn't be any better this time around, and they weren't. They weren't. But yeah, Quan and Shang rise above stations because they're visited by Damashi, who is Kronika, who we see in Chapter 1, who is Titan Shang Tsung morphed into Kronika. Yes, they have that many layers. The name isn't actually important. They just say Damashi at the reveal, so she doesn't go by Damashi in the scenes between. She's only in 2 scenes, actually. She's in the prologue, and then like 1 interaction with Shang, and then shows up at the end to be like, oh, it's me, it's Titan Shang Tsung, who you could have just showed up as Shang, and you probably would have convinced the other Shang that way that you're legit, because you are Shang Tsung. Shang betraying Shang is a very Shang move, but yeah, it's real dumb. It is real dumb. It just wants you to think that's Kronika, and Damashi is simply a deception reference. It's very clear why he did it, but it's really bad. But yeah, I mean, I do not mind, for the sake of this premise, the villains being like nullified and them having to rise with that due to like some outside circumstances. I do not mind that. My problem is all the other law changes, because there's no reasoning for them. The villains being nullified makes sense because it's Liu Kang in charge. Why was the Light of Tarkans not exist? Why would the Lin Kuei history being different make sense, but their Grandmaster's still a shithead? You know, why do realms not exist? Why is Edenia just a part of our world? Why is the Terror just a part of our world? Vaeternus is still separate, but Vaeternus is starving. That didn't happen in the original timeline. What's up with that? I don't know about the other realms, because they only mentioned the Terror, Edenia, and Vaeternus, and only one of them is actually a separate realm. Even though Sundo, the capital, is literally just Edenia. It's not like Sundo at all. Outside of having like a docks area, it's not the village from Deception or Deadly Alliance. It is not the same. The locations look great. It's just the names and the fact that like the past and shit's meant to be Edenia. Even though everyone thought, oh, Edenia's back. That was like the main praise for the gameplay reveal. And no, it's not back. And it never will return because it's not a realm anymore. It's fucking bullshit. It really is. It is lazy. Also, Chaos Realm probably doesn't exist now. It might. We don't know, because it's never shown, it's never mentioned. Havoc's a Saidan now, so presumably they did that because Chaos Realm's no more. But man, that's fucking weird and unnecessary. The Havoc changes are fucking stupid. He is not recognizable. He's just a regular, like, Saidan resistance guy. He's like a Saidan resistance OC, it feels, in the story. And the idea is he's meant to become more and more like Havoc throughout the story, but barely. You know, like at most, he gets his face melted by Scorpio, and that's why his face is all fucked up. I don't think they explain his magic. They do not explain his powers. at all. He doesn't get them at any specific point. He just has them. It's weird. The only thing where he really progresses is like his face gets melted, and then the end credits, which set up Titan Havoc of some sort, probably from an alternate timeline, as like the next main villain, which is probably a story expansion. There's no way this joke of a character is the main villain of the next game. Not a chance. He is such an incredible threat. It's just real bad. Bihan, Havoc, and Natara are by far the worst characters here. Just generic villains. They're not supposed to be. With terrible new lore to back it up. It's just nothing feels like the characters. Havoc in particular, because at least Bihan and Natara from an aesthetic standpoint, they're themselves. Natara less so. But, I mean, I've seen a lot of Natara's gameplay, you know, uses wings and stuff. Hopefully she has some good ults. And Bihan's just Sub-Zero, right? It's standard Sub-Zero moveset. Havoc's moveset is like Havoc, but like his appearance, his voice, his story, his lore, is just nothing of it's like Havoc. Darius probably should have been playable in my opinion. It's clear it was only Havoc because he's like the most popular 3DR character, which why wouldn't you do him faithfully if he's already so popular and the rest? I don't know. But yeah, I can't imagine Havoc being well received. It is a terrible return. The only praise it will get is just from the fact that he's back at all, which I'm sorry, I expect more. If you guys waited for 17 years for this guy, you want Havoc. You don't want whoever this guy named Havoc is. Fuck that. There's probably some good else. That's the thing. The default costumes just suck in this game, but like I think that's like a crazy amount of ults in this one, and that's all the stuff they show in the story is unplayable, which I feel like some of it might be, which is a massive shame. So, but we don't know the unlockables until launch, and I'm hoping it's not all limited time bullshit from Invasions, but it might be. We'll have to see. It'll determine whether I get the game or not, depending on the extent of that. But yeah, it's just really bad. But overall, the characterization of most characters I thought was good. Some I don't care about. Like I think Raiden, Liu Kang, and Scorpion are characterized well, but I don't care about them because of how drastically changed they are. Is Scorpion Hanzo? No. So I don't care. Is Raiden a thunder god? No. So I don't care. Is Liu Kang a humble warrior, a monk? No. I don't care. Right? Like the lore changes are too drastic. It just doesn't interest me. At all. So that's a shame. Because the thing that are good though, that managed to rise above the lore change. Because the thing is, the backstory lore or the retcons, the lore changes, they are not relevant to the story at all. Most of the characters not relevant to, right? Astra's lore is basically unchanged, so she's fine outside of having a really bad redesign model. So I think she's good in the story. She gets a chapter, so that's a plus. Anyone who was in chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7, I think good, because I think that portion's like the best NRS storytelling overall. It has a fantastic hero group where all the characters come off as likable, which, look at the past NRS games, a lot of the heroes are not likable at all. Here, everyone comes across as likable. Even Liu Kang in some ways, and I cannot fucking stand High God Liu Kang because of course the new timeline, how it sucks. But yeah, like that all like the personalities are great, you know, just all characterized well. The pun comes with the villains, really. And Sindel. Sindel's real bad. She's not a villain this time around. Not a villain per se. She is a flawed character, and I think that's intentional. I guess they're trying to do an in-between or some sort. I don't fucking know. It's just really weird. It doesn't work. you're not even appealing to either Sindel fans, because I know there's some MK11 Sindel fans, and those people are just weirdos. It's just odd. It is odd. Because I'm just surprised that they seem aware of this, because, we'll get to Melina, who is the best character in this game. But Sindel's just kind of an asshole to, like, Lee May, because, he killed Jared. Because he dies on her watch, and that's kind of, like, her entire character. Lee May's entire character is, I fucked up as an Ungari. I did a shit job, and I became a police officer. That's it. And then in her chapter, unfortunately, she's a hero. For a fucking course she should be. Outside that, I can't really give it praise. She's one that does not escape the bad backstories in this game. She does not escape her bad lore. It's just always present, even in her chapter. It's all focused on Umgadi, this. Fucking Sindel stuff, that. And she's, like, really old this time now, even though her whole thing was a young warrior. Even though she's an outworlder. It's just not Lee May. If it was a new character, I probably would be okay with them, but it's not. It's Lee May. My favourite character, probably, from in terms of, like, a biased viewpoint. She's probably my favourite. And she's just not herself here. It is a real shame. Because when I got through the story, I was like, Lee May will probably be able to rise above the shitlord, because all these other characters are, but she didn't. So I'm overall negative on her. But yeah, like I said, the group of characters from the middle portion of the story are fantastic. Johnny Cage. Johnny's great. Which I cannot believe I'm saying that, because if you know me, you know I don't like Johnny. I really don't. I've only liked Johnny when he was like a father. That's it. I don't like silly, inexperienced young Johnny. He's obnoxious to me. I've never found him funny. This game, I like him though. Him and his chapter kind of fucking sucks, because half of it is just a movie. But like, he seems pretty nice. He's not like some like obnoxious like movie star asshole. He seems generally friendly, and then they establish his wife, Chris, not Cindy, which is weird. It doesn't really matter, but they establish that she leaves him, and then he just gets over it immediately. It is not relevant to anything. And like, is that meant to be a Cindy Ford reference, who was her ex-wife like the old games? There's a lot of NPCs that are named. That could just be anyone else, right? And it's only in the first 2 chapters, so it doesn't really go past that. So Madame Bo Raicho, very clearly. The Bo Raicho erasure is fucking criminal. It really does piss me off how they are ignoring Bo Raicho. He should have been here, and he could have been a cameo. Isn't the point of cameos to fucking do that? They fumbled the cameos. By the way, every single base character here has a cameo form as an NPC. Yeah, NPC. The main roster is entirely playable with cameo forms, but they're NPCs. And I know they just reuse like their main moves, but guess what the Shijinko cameo does? He just copies their main moves. So it's not like there's like a balancing issue here. It's just they couldn't be asked to do the fatal blows because they have like generic fatal blows, and the fatalities, which honestly you should have just cut them, because I imagine it takes up most of the work in making cameos, and overall they're just completely aesthetic. They really fumbled the bag with the cameos. I think our characters there are very fun. Shijinko, Darius, Serena, Mutaro. There's a lot of real cool stuff here. With the DLC, you'll get a bunch of crazy motherfuckers. Movado, Feather, like very cool. A lot of what we get. They've wasted like 4 slots and just characters on a base roster, when it should have been all of them. I feel like you should have had the base roster on top of the cameo selection. Simple as that. You have unique cameos, but then you have the base roster still have like bite-sized, playable cameo versions. I thought they were doing it that way. If they did, I'd be much more positive on the feature. Because when I've seen it in action, I actually think this mechanic's alright. I think it's going to lead to a very unbalanced game, but like casually, I think there's a lot of fun to be had with it. I think in terms of online, it's going to be annoying, which is why I hope Invasions is a good offline mode. I really do. This game is relying on that mode alone, because there's nothing else. Because the towers, by the way, the towers, the final boss is the Day Alliance, which, you know, I'm a huge fucking Day Alliance fan. I love the Day Alliance's villains. But the boss fight sucks because Shang Tsung is just the same to my knowledge. And then the Quan Chi cameo is non-playable. Even though it's not like it's an OP cameo or anything. Again, it's like, what Quan Chi should just be base roster. And again, it reflects the fact that, like, you know, because we have these characters, we have the NPC cameos, it's annoying because if they were playable, we'd be able to do stuff like the Day Alliance as a pairing with the cameos and the base roster. There's a lot of missed opportunities. I'm hoping when the Quan Chi DLC is done, when you do towers, it swaps between the two, but I don't know if they would do that. It is insane how both of them are DLC, but one's pre-order, one is just a separate DLC pack. They're not even bundled together. It is really bad. I know clearly time constraints is why Quan Chi was pushed out of the main roster, but why didn't you prioritize him? He's one half of your main villains. He should have been like one of your first characters to make. Why did I cannot fathom it. It is real bad. I've noticed in a case quite like MK12 Quan Chi, this really prominent character in story, the final boss essentially, and he's not playable yet. He's coming later for a £5 DLC. That is unacceptable. That is completely unprofessional and just scummy. You know, DLC I'm fine with. I'm fine with it. But if characters clearly meant to be base roster, you should just be offered it free. You really should be. We are expecting a 25 base character roster, and by the way, that includes a pre-order bonus. And we just lost two, and there's two very prominent story NPCs, and they just happen to be DLC. No, that's bullshit. We literally had leaks saying that, yeah, they were meant to be base roster, but they were pushed back. And clearly these leaks, these rumours, they seem to be very accurate. I cannot imagine another circumstance where they just said, oh, we'll just make them DLC. Outside of, oh, we don't have time to finish them. Really bad. Really bad. This game probably rushed us all now. It is a shame. It is. But Day Alliance's villains, I actually think they're decent. They don't live up to the original MKDA, of course, but I think they're likable. The person is good. And, you know, I don't care about this new time because there's an actual reason for their lore to be different. Even though Quan Chi's especially is very odd, like he's an outworld and stuff, it's not really relevant because their whole thing is rising above that to become like powerful sorcerers. I think that's a very good premise, actually. I very much vibe with that. And I was saying, because I care as a mystery for so long, which is also wild, we're going to be looking back on this and being like, why did they do this? Because it's so strange how they just left the main villain as a mystery when it's just a Day Alliance. And you could have just advertised them. You could have had it as like the pre-order bonuses. That would have been much more appealing than just Shang. And you could have just marketed the whole game around because they're very marketable villains, especially as a duo, because everyone's been waiting for the Day Alliance to make a return. But yeah, they just didn't. They hid it away. And it's really odd. And I don't get it. And maybe it's to do with the fact that Quan Chi, they didn't finish him. But again, why didn't you prioritize him? It makes no sense. It really is unfortunate. It's a shame. And you could have had the secret Titan Shang anyway. Just market it around the Day Alliance that we are fighting with for like most of the story until the last 3 chapters. And yeah, the Day Alliance that we're with for most of the story, I like them. I think they're decent. Their goal is just like Day Alliance as well, because they're just trying to resurrect this modified army. That's Naranagas. it is, and I can't remember the guy's name. I cannot remember the guy's name, but it's some like ancient emperor who had this army or whatever. It is just Onaga. It is just Onaga renamed. It is ridiculously stupid, and the reason why they changed it, they disassociate it from Onaga, is because Onaga's like a monster now. He's like some like typical like mythology like dragon monster now in Reiko's ending, which is probably non-canon, but I feel like the lore would be canon because I don't know why they just established that. A lot of the towering seem to be canon, by the way, but we haven't seen all of them, so I won't really talk about it much. But they're quite mixed in terms of being good and bad. But yeah, I like the daylights here. Their voices are good. I think Quan Chi is the Onslaught voice actor, which isn't my favourite, definitely not, but it does the job. I just wish Quan Chi actually got more, because honestly, he doesn't get much characterization and stuff. He's not very focused on in the story. The focus mainly goes to Shang, and I dislike that because the whole point of Daylights was they're equals. Whereas here, Quan Chi's kind of just as assist. He doesn't feel lesser than Shang at least, but like there's clearly a focus on Shang over him, and I don't like that. So overall, I think they're fine as the villains, and it just gets muddied with Titan Shang because the Daylights are still the main villains. So Shang just has his own Titan Quan who just shows up at the very end. One half of your final boss shows up at the end with no explanation. It is terrible. It is real bad. I don't even know if I say it's the worst boss in MK. It hardly counts as a boss fight. It's super weird. And I say this as someone who doesn't even like MK bosses. I think the only one that was well designed was Onaga because he has like an actual strategy to beating him. Everything else is just the design to him is just be cheap and OP. So actually, as someone who doesn't like him, I don't mind a final tower boss being just a regular fight, outside there being an NPC cameo for some reason. They're cameos, they're regular assists. Why are there so many NPCs of them? I'd actually have a fine time with that. But it is bad. It's fundamentally a bad decision. And I say as someone who it appeals to, because I love the Daylights, and I love not having to deal with bullshit bosses. And even I think this is bad. Titan Quan is a dope design, by the way. It has some weird headpiece thing, but like besides that, he has a really awesome design. Quan Chi finally gets some new designs in this game, and they're pretty fantastic, both of them. His main one focuses on the colour blue a lot, rather than like a turquoisey colour, which is kind of odd, but it still fits. And he has like a bit of a cape. It's like a split cape. Shang has a cape as well, in a few costumes, which is very cool. Shang's voice is very good. Might be my favourite. It's between that and Max Crawford Shang Tsung. It's better than Carrie's, absolutely. And it's going to be very much influenced by Carrie. And I hope this puts the claims that only Carrie can portray Shang Tsung to bed, because nope, there are better voices for him. Other people can voice the guy. And yeah, his voice is fantastic. He does a very good job, and he was probably in a heart. I don't know who voiced him. I haven't checked. I mean, there's probably not even an official confirmation, is it yet? Because we haven't seen him talk any official stuff. Actually, I guess the prologue. I don't know. But the voice for him is fantastic. So yeah, it probably did a very difficult job considering what you're following up on. But I think he did a good job. I think we'll all be happy with that voice. Voices people won't be happy about, fucking Natara's Megan Fox. I think it's worse than Ronda as Sonya. Because at least Ronda inherently is just a white woman, American, so the voice fits. The performance is terrible, but a lot of it is down to the writing, because Sonya has some terrible dialogue. In fact, you can't like a lot of stuff is meant to sound badass, but no one can make it sound badass. Natara here is just as bad. Like it's this robotic AI American voice that doesn't. It's like this drilling American accent, And it's like this Chinese coded vampire. If you don't believe me, she has Chinese writing tattooed to her wings. Shit's stupid. It's real bad. And it weighs on the character a whole lot more than you think. I can do a bad voice actor, but if it's still a voice actor, it's probably going to be fine. She is barely an actress. And just does a terrible job. I think, for my mind, this is the worst voice acting / acting in MK history. It is so bad. It doesn't even have so bad it's good charm. It has nothing going for it. It is awful, and Atari's just awful in this game. Her ending's gross. I'm not getting into it, but it's fucked up. And in the story, she's just a goon for Quan Chi. Quan Chi uses some magic so the vampires can survive sunlight, apparently. Which is random because I thought Natara's goal was to feed her people, so I don't know what Quan's offering there, although Natara does mention that, like, her people will invade Earth or whatever for the humans to eat them. So I don't know what her deal is. Because he doesn't show up enough to get any conversation. He shows up like twice off the top of my head. Just not much. Just a job there. That's a job. Which again, I wouldn't mind, but they need some characterization on top of that. They need at least some focus. I feel like the villains could have done a chapter, which I feel like everyone says that. Shang Tsung gets a chapter with a Quan Chi assist. Most of the time you'll have an assist. Actually, not most of the time, but in some yes. It's like when these chapter you have Tanya, so technically they get their own chapter too, but the focus is still on the playable character, which I think is dumb because that feels very superficial, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, the story of these two would be of equal importance, but because you're only playing as one, we're not going to focus on the other that much. And again, it's stuff like that makes like Quan Chi feel not as prominent or as important as Shang Tsung. Because remember, Shang Tsung gets a prologue scene as well, and not Quan, even though they go through the same process. It's very weird. I don't know if Quan's supposed to show up as like a surprise. I don't get what they were going for. But yeah, they get a chat with the help and the heroes, and it's quite fun. Raiden returns, and he's kind of with them. Mainly just to do a deception reference, but I do think it's a good deception reference. They finally did a good one. I swear immediately after they do another one, though, just a bunch of different characters, though. And said references like shooting like different beams at stuff. Of course, them just being around helping each other. That trio is called just a callback to deception in general. And I like it. They're very smug. The dialogues are fruity as fuck in this game. I fuck with the characterization of them both. They are very fun villains, and their lore changes, as dumb as they are, it makes sense in terms of the timeline continuity that I said. Even if Quan's is a bit out there from what we've heard. And their goal is quite faithful to the original, because they're trying to control the mummified army. Which leads to nothing, by the way, but for sure. Again, it doesn't really come across as credible because they lose like twice. Like Sub-Zero and Scorpion beat them, which is fucking ridiculous, and then Millie and Tanya beat them. Although that's kind of like the end for that day, at least. Millie and Tanya basically defeat them, like the actual main villains, right? No, then hold on, which is kind of fucking cool. I'll give them that. That's kind of awesome. But it's quite random. It's quite wild, and honestly, bad power scaling as much as I like it. But yeah, after that they get their own chapter, because Titan Shang Tsung was just using them. I don't even know for what. I don't know what he wanted the army for. He takes like the souls of them or something for something, and then it's not really relevant after that. It is such a Chronica move. It is such a Chronica move, and by that I mean Chronica and MK. There's a bunch of random shit that she has no reason to do any of it. She doesn't need to show up. She doesn't need to show up in MK11 because the keepers are in an unknown location. No one's going to find where it is. So she doesn't need protectors for it because it's hidden. But oh my god, it is mental. it is mental. So yeah, the day nights are helping the heroes for a chapter, which is cool again. There's fun stuff there. It's just filler fights though, because Shang Tsung has an army of like dark versions of every character. That have no context, by the way, but like yeah, he's just an army of like evil characters. So he already has an army. So whatever he was doing in the last one, I don't know what it was, wasn't relevant to anything. So yeah, this is where the story really falls apart. It gets goofy, and everyone who's seen it so far since subreddit really hates it, and valid. I do too. Shadow Falling is Liu Kang, which confused me because I'm not going to get into it because like it's just like different like keyboard time variants from like various things, and I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's too random. There's too much multiverse bullshit with little explanation. It is scuffed. But there's like Katana and they just smooch, which takes the piss because Malia and Tanya had a whole chapter like minutes ago where they don't kiss because they're trying to be really subtle with their gay couple, but so that they could still pass it off as they're just friends. They clearly care a bunch about each other, but there's nothing like I love you. There's no like hugging. There's no kissing. There's nothing like that. And while it's very nice to get some Talina moments in the story, you can tell it's subtle. You can tell it's very subtle, which is infuriating. It is infuriating. Because I think the one couple featured in this game, and it's hardly featured because it's two women, which fucking sucks. Yeah, the Fire God Liu Kang chapter comes before Katana gets anything. Katana just doesn't get a chapter, which is wild. Everyone else who doesn't get a chapter makes sense to me. It doesn't surprise me. But Katana not getting one is crazy. It's MK vs DC all over again. I am shocked that she didn't get one. She has had, of like the NRS stories with like chapter systems, she's had more where she hasn't had a chapter. She's only had chapters in 9 and 11, which is kind of weird. It is very weird because she is a main character. She's a mainstay, of course, and one of the main heroes. She's not really essentially anything, but you'd think you'd play as her for chapter 14, and then chapter 15 is Liu Kang. That's clearly what I feel like it's going for. But no, chapter 15 is you pick your character, and there's like some Titan Shang pyramid, and like within 5 seconds Liu Kang gets like a whole army from different universes that are willing to help fight Shang's army, and then you fight like a bunch of like fused characters or like a mix of stuff, and a few other random stuff like a girl Sub-Zero, no, a girl Scorpion, a girl Johnny Cage, and there's like a bunch of Cassies as well. There's like ninja mimes. There's fucking there's Frost with the Sub-Zero mantle, which probably isn't playable. If it is, I'll buy the game. It's simple as that. Surprise me, NRS. Do the bare minimum, please. Do it for me. It is a mess. It is a mess. It's just random. It's just nonsensical. It is paced atrociously. It's the worst pacing I've seen in any media ever, I think. It is impossible to follow with, and especially at 4 a.m. That was the closest thing to taking drugs that I've experienced in my life. It's so fucking scuffed. It was so scuffed. I don't get it. I really don't know what else to say. It's so sad. And then you are slowly making it to the top for all these random fights. That Time Lord Katana mentioned helps you out to kill the combat kids randomly. They made a new model for Kung Jin for that. I think Cassie is a new model as well. So I don't know what's going on there. Cassie might be a future DLC. I don't know. It's fucking weird. Like why? Why did you do that? That was your main protagonist 8 years ago. Why are you just very like that? I know most people don't like him, or at least not the whole group. Personally, I love Takedo, even though Takedo is like the others are as good as Takedo. Kung Jin maybe less, but that's just because Kung Jin gets so little. But yeah, they looked good as well, and then they just die. Like what? why? And that was the leak story scene. If I had that leak beforehand, then I would have been fucking fuming, but I'd expected that. And then when it happened, I was like, okay, that's a... I don't know why the guy leaked that scene of all things, because it, it was so random. And then, like, Fire Liu Kang's at the end to help you battle the Day Alliance, which, yeah, there's just a Titan Honchi, I guess. I guess we're calling them Titans. I think they're Titans. I don't know. They explain nothing. Nothing makes sense. It's just random nonsense. And then you beat the Day Alliance. And then, like, Liu Kang actually mentions that, like, Shang's timeline is being destroyed somehow. And then, like, it just cuts to the tea house for the last scene. What? I don't know. The last scene does actually do some sequel stuff, and so do the endings, which is impressive. How much of that they'll drop in 4 years' time, I don't know. But there's stuff like, oh, Scorpion, Smoke Star, like, sure are you? That's fucking stupid. Bihan's gonna start Cyber Initiative. Shao and the Sorcerers in prison, like stuff like that. And yeah, that's it. I mean, I skipped over a few things there. Melina's chapter is fantastic. Melina is the best character in this game, I feel. I said as someone who didn't like Melina before, and I was getting very pissed that she was just becoming a mainstay of obnoxious stones. They did us so much justice in it. They did everything I wanted to do with Melina for years now. And that's make her a hero. Because she's inherently sympathetic. And even X, like, her goal for Outward was better than Kotal's because she was trying to free realms. Kotal was trying to massacre fucking species, so, and here she's just fun on a good guy, which really surprised me because all the trailers are like, oh, she's got the Tarkot disease, she'll turn into a bloodthirsty monster. By the way, the Tarkons are not bloodthirsty monsters here, which I'm happy with, but again, it's just like, okay, so the disease is pointless. It's pointless lore. It's really pointless lore. It adds nothing outside of Melina having a new gimmick where, like, she'll just, it's basically just going into rage mode whenever, like, the disease, like, affects her. Only for a brief period, and then, like, she's fine after a bit. It's random bursts, and it does not align with the regular Tarkons. So it could have just been, they could have just had the Tarkons be the same, and then they could have just had Melina's thing, because Melina having a new origin is actually another one that makes sense, because, you know, Shao's not Emperor, Shang's not a villain, she's not going to be created, and Liu Kang being nice would have just made her an actual part of Sinbad's family. And I think that's actually quite sweet, assuming that's how that works. I don't fucking know. But I think it works. I think that works. Of course, the clone stuff is more interesting anyway, but the direction for the character is better. But I'll take that as a trade-off. Because she's so good. She's likable and everything except when she goes crazy with the Tarkot stuff. And even at the end, they make it cool because, like, it's in her chapter, it's just like her, like, rage mode to rage out and just fuck up the villains. And I think that's cool. If they use it like that, then I'm cool with it. But, like, in the chat where they reveal it, like, she's the one who takes Kenshi's eyes, she just stabs Kenshi in the eyes. Because she's just feral. It's just weird. Because the Radio Tarkons aren't bloodthirsty monsters. I know Baraka mentions it, but it's not accurate. And I was so annoyed at first, because I thought they would just be monsters again. And they weren't. Baraka gets more development, and even MK11, he gets his own chapter. He is an awesome character. Baraka and Melina are fantastic. Even with the most ridiculous, like, disease lore imaginable, they rise above it to just be these two fantastic characters. It is so good. I cannot praise it. I think it's the best thing NRS has done into the story stuff. Even with the shit retcons, like how they characterize it is like really peak MK story stuff. There are a lot more characters that I feel like characterize really well than like any other NRS game, which makes the lore changes even more frustrating. Because like if you were just faithful to the source material, I would probably be positive about like most of it. I still am positive about a good chunk of it. Again, I like the middle portion. once you get past Raiden's chapter, and then I like Melina's chapter. I don't like the rest, but that's like half. Actually, no, that's less than half. That's still decent. That's still right. That's like 5 chapters there. that's more than usual. And yeah, she's just fantastic. She's likable. And again, it's kind of why I say Sindel seems to be intentionally flawed, because Melina's whole thing is just like fixing issues as she calls, like the young guys all shady and they're gonna reform it in Tanya's ending, and like the Tarkatans, how they were just kind of cast away and treated as fucking these monsters, and they have like no support. Like, their living conditions were terrible. Melina goes to visit them in her ending, and also Baraka's ending. They kind of just say the same thing, but it's very nice. And it's just Melina that goes there, and then she's just supporting the Tarkatans, and she like reveals her identity, like embracing the Tarkatans, which I really like. That's what I fucking wanted. That's what I wanted for Melina. Right, it is everything I want from Melina outside of the dumb law change, which, to be fair, is kind of essential with what they're going for a new timeline. The disease stuff is not essential, but I really do like her. I am shocked. She went from like one of my least favorite characters in canon to my favorite. She's my favorite character in this game. They did a fantastic job. Genuinely, this is the most I will praise an NRS story for anything. They did crazy good stuff with Melina, like, and I am shocked because it was not looking that way. The fact they managed to recover from like the disease bullshit, her blinding Kenshi, which that feels like it's the new Jax losing his arms to just random circumstances instead of anything of significance. It's probably worse with Kenshi because Kenshi's blinding was like really like deep lore with Shang and stuff, and I thought, oh, because Kenshi's chapter is where they start looking for Shang. So I thought, oh, they're going to do the well stuff. But no, they don't. It's weird. But yeah, for it all, Melina managed to be a great character. A hero, one of the main heroes. She stops the main villains. The ones that actually, the Daylight that actually matters. With Tanya. Gets moments with Ermac. Ermac gets to be Jared now. They finally do some of that idea over a decade later. Which personally, I've never been too crazy about the idea because I'm going to toss about Jared. But he's very nice in his story. And it's cool to see him finally do anything with it. You know? So I'll take it. I think overall I don't like just Ermac becoming Jared because I feel like Ermac had his own identity as the collective in Deception. But I would take this over what the fuck we had before of Ermac in the NRS stuff. Again, I don't like how it's just Jared like controlling, because there's other souls in there, so I feel like they should get chances. But this game kind of sets up a gimmick of Ermac's face will change depending on who the host is. But we've only seen one host. Presumably we'll see more, because Sindel's part of the collective. She dies, by the way, which is for the best, because it means Melina becomes Empress, and it gets rid of Sindel. Because Sindel kind of fucking sucks, yeah. I know she's good, and I know that'll be enough for most people. But she just does too much shady stuff, like the Ungadi stuff, being kidnapping children and stuff. Maybe she didn't know that. She just seemed blissfully unaware of, like, half the shit going on. So she's either incompetent, an asshole, and it's probably a bit of both. She becomes likable in her own chapter and in Melina's chapter, because she's fine, good now. After Li Mei's chapter, you know, they finally feel each other, and like that's a nice moment. But I don't forgive Sindel. She came across as an ass. So yeah, Sindel's is quite unlikable. It had to be like a flawed character thing, but it's still not Sindel. It is better than just being plain evil, right? It is an upgrade to 11 by default. And something this is where I started to find her likable, was when I realized, oh, she knows Melina has the Tarkat disease, but she's not mad about it. Because the whole thing was, oh, Melina will be banished if she's found for the disease. Which I thought was like, Sindel's decision, which I still think it is, but like she's also in on like trying to hide it. So that's something. And I get it, Tarkon's being separate from the other people because it's contagious, right? And that's kind of thing. The thing is, in like the endings, like the colonies, Tarkon colonies, just said tribe camps and stuff. So it's basically the same, really. They're still there, and Tarkon is kind of the others right now. But Melena's supporting their own like community until they can find a cure, which is probably never, because MK about Tarkatans would would be insane. They would not do that. So, well, we've gone an hour. That's probably what I was to talk about, but I think that covers most of it. Story cameos. There's a few that are in story. Taro, Goro, Darius, which made me happy. Until I realised he does not speak at all. Serena gets one line. She's just generically evil. After ending explaining that she's under like some mind control from Quan Chi, which I don't like, but sure, if it sets up good Serena for the next game, I'm okay with that. I don't like that ending because it makes Serena and Ash sisters, though. Which is like fuck you. I had them shipped, and then you just like, oh yeah, my ship and my fanfic is incest, and I'm like, thanks guys, thanks a fucking bundle. Really appreciate that. Key and Jataka are just dead. By the way, Asher killed them. They established those are the sisters she kills, like in a deception by essentially. They take that role, which fuck off. Thank you. So you see, there's a lot of dumb stuff. So, oh my god, I haven't even talked like Beyond and stuff. Beyond's just bad. Beyond is okay. The cameos. There's some cameo stuff because Darius. Yeah, it ties to Havoc because Havoc's just like a resistance member, seemingly. They don't really mention the resistance, but Darius and Havoc are working together and they just want to bring Satan's government down, which I like. That's an alliance. I like that's a thing. And Darius seems unsure of what he's doing because Havoc's like confrontational about Quan Chi and one scene where he's like, Darius and I have been thinking. And then, like, he's trying to renegotiate because he has no proof that Quan Chi will actually do anything. And then, like, that's an excuse to talk about, like, why Natara's helping him as well as Havoc and Darius' own reasons. So that works. It gives them a motive, but then they get no characterization past that. So, yeah, Bihan gets a chapter, meets up some people, and the Daeon's, like, convinced him to turn heel because he hates Liu Kang, because he is a power-hungry weirdo who wants to like govern the world or whatever. I don't know. He's just a generic power-hungry guy. I cannot say anything I haven't already said about from what we've been shown. He betrays his brother. He's an asshole. He is not Bihan. This is not Bihan. Bihan is not a villain. Do not get it twisted. This is just like This is just like Frost Sector, put him in a blender, and you've got this angsty piece of shit. Smoke does nothing. I have nothing to say about Smoke. Rain too. Rain, unfortunately, I think it's with the villains. They do look kind of like the Melina, Tanya, Rain trio, but then Rain just kind of goes with the villains, and I don't know why. I don't know what he wants. He barely shows up, so I can't even tell you how many times he speaks. So I wouldn't even say he comes off as like an asshole or anything. I just don't know what he wants. He's with the villains. Not even a character. I don't even have a motive for Rain, so I have nothing to say about him. Wasted the character for this game, because Rain does not need to be in 2 games in a row. He could have just been an NPC. He could have just been a cameo. He really could have just been a cameo, now that I think about it. Oh my. But yeah, the story cameos do not let us speak. They would perfectly just have like cameos, appearances in the story. They're still talk, but they're NPCs at the end of the day. But like they're cameos, so they're still kind of playable. But no, they don't speak or anything, and they're just kind of around. They got no lore or significance really. So kind of pointless, and a lot of them aren't in the story. So yeah, that's weird. I think that's about it. Probably missing some stuff. And that was kind of incoherent because I kind of leaped between chapters. But I'm recording this and discussing it as if you have also seen the story and you know what I'm rambling about. If you want story spoilers, then comment and I could probably give like a competent reply in terms of like a message or whatever. But overall, yeah, this story sucks. The story sucks, but there is some good stuff, at least in the outward stuff, because I'm a millionaire. That makes me interested to see the timeline continue. And yeah, the new law sucks. This story does not justify it. I was right all along about that stuff, and the characterization I'm positive about for a lot of characters, and then very negative on for others. And some guys just have no comment because they don't feature enough. Reiko, another character I haven't mentioned because they're so non-prominent. Reiko is fine. He is a Shao loyalist, and he jobs out for him. It makes sense. I think his lore, we don't have his bio yet, of course, but like when he's introduced, Shao explains that he's like he took him in. He was like orphaned from like, what was it, the Kafala War or whatever the fuck they call it? Which, by the way, they don't explain what that is. Which I just realised. Like, there's so many things they bring up and don't explain. They don't answer any of it. It's real bad. It is really bad. Garrison, I haven't mentioned, but he is important for, like, because, like, he's Charlie Algras. He finds out about the stuff about Shang Tsung and Quan Chi. So he is important, but, like, he doesn't fight. He's, like, the first time, I think, a playable character who's in the story doesn't actually fight at all. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, he's fine. He doesn't turn on Liu Kang. He's just a good guy now, which is all I wanted. I thought he'd get like his own chapter though. But it's fine. He didn't need one. He was good. I like him. He carries Liu Kang quite a lot. I feel. Oh yeah, Gareth's just good. I'm very glad they brought him back. I'm very glad they found a way to separate him from Chronica. Give him a separate identity. Chronica's not returning. And like, I was shocked. I was like, oh, Chronica's actually returning. She wasn't even returning here. So I don't think Chronica's actually showing up. They actually say Titans stay dead. So, yeah. It's kind of nuts. But yeah, I think that's about it. I just don't like the story. Reptile, oh my god, I miss Reptile. Every time I'm like, okay, it's time to wrap this up. I think of another character. Reptile's good. He's slipping Shang initially, because parents have hostage, which works. That's something Shang would do, and this is something I like about Shang here. He is like genuinely terrifying, just like freaking crazy evil shit here. Which like goes back like midway song. This is the best Shang in a while. Probably since Dead Alliance itself. Because I mean, I'm getting Shang doesn't really have much to know. He has his own bio. And there's some cool stuff there, but like you go away from that going, wow, Gora's an ass, rather than anything about Shang. So probably his best since like Deception. Which is kind of nuts. But yeah, I really like Shang. And like Reptile and Baraka fight at the end of the chapter. Baraka's chapter is basically just fighting a bunch of super dark items in the flash pits. I guess it's meant to be for Shang's Song. I can't remember why they said he was doing that. But yeah, he makes some crazy dark item stuff in the flash pits. And then Reptile, Baraka and Reptile fight. And then Reptile begs to be killed after losing because he feels if he's dead, then Shang will just spare his parents because there's no reason to kill him. Because he's lost his asset. But Baraka refuses. And then they have a really nice moment where Baraka like tells him about how like if he was in his position he'd do the same thing, so he shouldn't feel bad about it. And that's fucking lovely. That is it is very cool to see Baraka and Reptile get focused. Because they were like, when you think of NRS jobbers, you think of Reptile and Baraka. Outside of like Kano's also up there, but fuck Kano, we don't speak of Kano. And it's really cool to see this for Baraka and Reptile. Baraka, Reptile, and Millie, I think, incredible glow-ups in this game, for sure. At least in story. At least I think that's a very good job for him. Reptile's own chapter, but I don't know what they were doing, actually. Because they have Quan Chi, he's knocked out. They're trying to get him to Liu Kang for questioning, but they go for like a whole festival. Oh, it was because I think there's a portal they were trying to get to. There's a portal and you had to go for that to get there. I think. I could be misremembering. It was very late when I saw the story, okay? It was very late. But yeah, Reptile are cool. And his parents are dead, by the way. Shang Tsung just goes, yeah, I already killed him, lol. Which I'm fine with. Because I don't expect... just because of, like, the side stuff in general, I don't expect Reptile to have living parents anyway. And best just kill him off. Then just do another, oh, I have an unnamed dad who's important to my backstory. They're not really important, but, like, it's just a general motive because, you do it for your family. And it sounds like, yeah, I killed him. And that's very good. Red doesn't get to get any revenge for him. It just kind of ends there. Reptile's revenge. It's just a different ninja and a different sorcerer to Scorpion Quan Chi stuff. No, what they do. Because Zhang and Quan are still alive. Xiao's alive. So now's the only character that dies, which they were very sparing in that. I mean, a lot of characters die that are just from like alternate universes, so they're not really characters, let's be honest. So I'm surprised by that. And it's quite good because it means you're not fucking up your new timeline already. Like this is genuinely salvageable. The new law fucking blows, but like this is salvageable. I feel, which is more than what I was gonna say before. They have impressed me overall. It's so bad the overall story, but there are good bits, which is the usual thing in anime stuff. But I think there's more great bits than usual. It's just a lot of really dumb stuff, and worse than basically anything here is just all the lore changes from backstories and stuff, most of which isn't prominent in this story. So yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, it's better than I thought. It was, and I have low standards. This is the first time modern MK has exceeded my expectations that are always very low. And they usually impress me with how worse things get. This is not their worst story, I'd say. It has the worst third act of probably any MK story, because it feels like an MK Legends thing, with like all the AU bollocks, and it just never explained, and it's so rushed. I was like, okay, this is Battle of the Realms. And that's what the entirety of Battle of the Realms felt like. So, yeah, that's just real bad. And there's certainly bad stuff throughout the story before. I don't know how, like, it was a great story and told that, but, like, I could have came away from that story going, I think they did a solid job, was it not for the final 3 chapters. You know, I could have came away a lot more positive. But, yeah, I'm just impressed that they made Johnny likable. So, yeah, thanks for watching this video. I don't know what you thought of the story. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.